Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of For the Love of Film, the series where I talk to different people about their love of cinema and what sparked it in the first place. And today I'm joined by George Aldridge. George, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello there. Thank you very much. It's weird doing these intros sometimes, introduce myself on someone else's channel. So I'm very grateful to be invited on for this. Yes, I don't want to call myself a critic. I never know what to call it because I hate saying I'm a YouTuber. But I co-run a YouTube channel, Cinema Savvy, where we essentially review and discuss all the latest releases alongside classics as well.
And I'm not saying this because I was recently on your Zodiac video, but honestly, if anyone's watching and has not checked out Cinema Savvy yet, please go and do it because they make brilliant videos, and especially the stuff you and Tate have been putting out over the last few weeks has been you guys have been going nuts over there with uploads.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean it's been London Film Festival, right? And I'm going to be moving forward known as the guy that turned up, went to drinks, and went home and didn't watch a single film. So that's take more for that. But the dynamic meant me at home building Lego meant I could download all the videos, upload them, do the posts, and get them up. So we've never really done it that way before, and it worked a treat. But
Mm.
yes, thank you for that. It's nice words, and it's been very busy, and we're in the middle of a sort of polite rebranding as such. So there's things up in the air, and it's
Mm.
nice to get back into the swing of things because, I mean, you've done YouTube for a similar length to us. I know
Mm.
this is a bit not personal, but you get your ups and downs, and
Oh yeah.
sometimes your head's switching. Like, should I be doing this? Should I not? What can we do
Mm.
better? What can't we do better? And it sort of built up, and I was like, okay, let's have this chat, and yeah,
Mm.
it's looking really good moving forward. I hope, and I hope that people like that, not just me.
I
But
mean
selling
this
it well.
I mean the stuff you and Tate announced for November going into December sounds really good, and I've really liked the new rebrand of the intro graphics. I need to update mine. I've been using it for about a year, and it's not the best, but yeah, I like the stuff you're doing at the moment. I think the retrospectives are brilliant. I mean, again, I'm not just saying that because I was on the David Fincher one, but I watch the majority of them that you do, and I think they're all really really good.
Well, thank you. And again, it was great to get you on for Zodiac because you spoke about that before. I mean, we talked about in the video, not to plug it, but you
Mm.
spoke about Zodiac before we got the series going. I was like, okay, let's get Aaron on and let's get him on for Zodiac, and it went
Mm.
very well.
Mm.
And it's a great film, a deep film, like many Fincher ones. You know what you're going to get, but yeah, that was a very entertaining, just as entertaining as a discussion as you can have on the
About yeah.
Zodiac killings. Is that's like the key disclaimer.
Yeah, for as dark and traumatic as that real event and the film is, like I think we did a good as good of a job as we could have with that. Um, but yeah, no, that I if I was going to come on for any Fincher film, Zodiac was the one I was going to come on for because I said this multiple times in the video, but I love that film so much. So I want to start off just by this is a question that I ask everyone, and it just is a good idea to kind of get to know you and get people to know what your taste in film is like. So, what is the most recent film that you've seen that you absolutely loved? It can be a new release, an old release. What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Okay, so it's a really boring answer, and I guess it's going to give real context when we're recording. But I finally seen Killers of the Flower Moon. I say finally; I technically
Hmm.
saw it on its release day. It's just that everyone
Hmm.
saw it at the festival. Um, I loved it in the sense of it being an unbelievable film.
Hmm.
I can't sit here and say I'm going to repeat it. As I can't sit here and say it's my favorite Scorsese film, but I didn't expect to like it as much as I did, and to likes again like a when it's non-fictional dramas. I've got a very different approach to how I go into them, and for this one, I wasn't too sure heading in, and not mainly because I didn't know almost anything about the real life side of things, but um, I very much enjoyed that film, and it's the most recent film I've seen.
Hmm.
I've been watching my backlog. I've been going through loads of 2023 releases.
Hmm.
Um, if I just want to give a shout out to Theatre Camp, which I watched a couple of weeks
Hmm.
ago, and I knew nothing about it. I thought it was going to be some weird drama. It was one of the funniest films of the year. So a massive shout out to Theatre Camp. Something a bit more niche or original, because I think
Mm.
everyone's gonna. Killers of the Flower Moon, you either loved it or you moaned it's 3.5 hours long. Apparently, there's no in between.
Uh, yeah, I still need to watch Theatre Camp. I've heard pretty good things about it, but Killers of the Flower Moon, I, I, I guess I was a bit similar to you because I was excited for it, but I was still a bit. I think coming away from The Irishman, which is a 4 hour film that I felt no urge to like revisit anytime soon, and I was thinking, okay, this is 3.5 hours of like based on a true story, heavy hitting Scorsese, and I was more hesitant than anything, but I came away and I think it might be one of my favorites of the year because he doesn't hold back on anything. Like the attention to detail in the film is ridiculous. It's unrivaled in Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yeah, and that's what kind of drew me in, is that in my mindset, at least, it's a $200 million film. I know some people
Mm,
will talk about its box office money.
yeah.
Obviously, we're recording this before those details are out and such, but it's not going to obviously turn a profit in the aspect of a 200 mil budget needing 400 mil.
Mm,
However, this was a film that was going to get put on Apple, that was going to go to a streaming site like The Irishman, that
yep.
was going to just get a limited cinema release, which in England basically means independent cinemas
Yep.
or a rip off at every man for 2 weeks or showcase chain, which I actually like. And
Mm,
I was very relieved when the announcement came that it was, oh, we're going to do a full wide release. We're going to now not put an Apple streaming date out there. We're going
yeah.
to do this wide release in full. And I just think that's like the minimum son
Yeah.
of Scorsese like deserves, and gives people the opportunity to watch a $200 million film at home.
Yeah.
And not home, sorry, on the big screen,
Mm,
and it'd be a drama, something very different, and you could see the budget on there, like Oppenheimer,
mm,
very different scenarios, but
mm.
were people going to go and watch it? What could you get out of seeing that at cinema compared to at home? Obviously, one's Nolan, but yeah, the production design, the costumes, as you
Mm,
mentioned, the attention to detail was very.
mm.
I don't like using words like this. It looked like what a $200 million film should look like.
Yeah.
The problem we have now in the last sort of couple of years is that $200 million films are starting to look worse and worse and worse and worse, and that's
Mm,
more so there's the treatment of terrible producers on VFX companies, etc., etc. So
yeah.
sorry to sort of meander into that, but
It's all right.
it's a shame. It's now a relief that films look good when they
Mm.
shouldn't have to.
Yeah. I think Killers of the Flower Moon and Oppenheimer, especially, and even Barbie to an extent, are good examples of like what you can do with a big budget and not have it look like it was just produced on like a factory line. And they've taken time and effort to really make it look like every single dollar has gone onto the screen. And I think this year's probably been the best example of big budget films that have just hit that sweet spot.
Yeah. Sorry, I was thinking in my head. I was like, Flash. But let's yeah. So
Yeah,
well,
ignore that
I
one.
think the key there though is that's three top tier filmmakers.
Mm,
And you know, with Barbie, I mean, I rewatched it yesterday for a bit of context, but
yeah.
I think when you're giving Greta Gerwig a budget, which we've now
Mm,
been able to see, and what she's delivered with that budget, yes, it's
yep.
a Barbie film, but a Barbie film is no right looking that good, being that good,
Mm,
and having the I guess the what's the word I'm looking for? Having the response it's had and the
mm,
filmmaking angle, you can't knock. And I hope that's 3 of the 5 best director nominees. I think it probably will be, without
mm.
jumping into Oscar stuff, because it's very easy to do so.
Yeah, no, I would be very surprised if those three, or at least one of them, doesn't end up in the best director category because Greta Gerwig knocked it out of the park, Nolan knocked it out of the park, Scorsese obviously did. If those three don't end up in best director, I will be very surprised because I mean they've not just produced some of the biggest films of the year, but like they are some of the best as well. And I liked Barbie a lot more than I thought I would. I mean, I was looking forward to it anyway because it's got my boy Ryan Gosling in it, and he's my favorite actor working today. But the whole film just really surprised me, and I think, yeah, I think they are three of the best of the year without a doubt.
Yeah, no, I mean they are currently in my top 3 of the year. I've not seen
Mm,
enough, but yeah, I think they're my current top 3 of the year for films too.
mm. Yeah, same. I know Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon are like the top two for me, and I think Barbie is still in the top 10 because the more I think about it, the more I like it. But yeah, I can't see it. Considering we're in November, well, we're almost into November now. I can't see Barbie dropping out of that top 10. I mean, it's so funny. It's so good. I just want to rewatch it again so badly. I only saw it once in the cinema, so I need to give it a rewatch at some point. Um, so I want to start off just by getting an idea of just what started your journey on YouTube with Cinema Savvy, and what got you into doing YouTube in the first place. And I just was also wondering if the approach has changed throughout the years that you've been doing the channel as well.
Yeah, of course. It's a really interesting one. We started it in 2015, May. The first film reviewed was Avengers Age of Ultron, for a bit of
Mm,
context. And the background to it, if I'm being quite honest, I was at uni. I was in my, well, that's the summer between, oh God, first and second year. Yes, it was between first and second year. And I learned a lot in that first year, more than I learned in A levels. We had an incredible tutor who actually now directs short films.
mm,
I've learned so much from across a short amount of time that first year, where basically got to summer. I was like, okay, I want to make use of having an Adobe Creative Cloud membership,
mm,
because now they're expensive compared to then because I'm not a
yeah.
student anymore. But and at the same time, I watched a lot of YouTube.
Mm,
We spoke about before we sort of hit live. Schmoes know I remember watching them.
mm,
Screen Junkies brackets when they were good. I'm not embarrassed, but obviously there's a lot of scandals that came after.
yeah.
They used to have a movie fight show which I adored, and uh, then this was probably before Collider. There was a Force Network. You had Ken Napzok on there. So I was in this YouTube stage of finding out more about film, watching more films, seeing what
Mm,
I say different audiences, but they're all American, but that's so different to what we have here. So I was finding
yeah.
out so much more about the history of cinema off these channels, their interests, the people, their ages, etc. And I just always thought like I'd love to do something like this, not for a
Mm,
living, but like I'd love to do something where there's a platform. And podcast. I don't think podcasting was a meme like it is now, where
mm,
like you see the jokes not right. People in their mid-40s just start a podcast, and no disrespect to anyone that does it, but I
mm,
love that that's how big they've got in it, and it caters to audiences everywhere. Still,
yeah.
that people are up for it. And my sort of theory is more about its replacement of radio long term.
Mm,
Not that it will, but that's the key there. And I saw, and I won't be ashamed to say that I saw a post from someone looking to do it,
mm,
and that's how it kick-started from the same county. A bit of, don't know if there's a word for xenophobia about counties where you're from, but if they didn't say where I'm from, I probably wouldn't have replied. And it began as a podcast, the Cinema Savvy Movie Podcast. Always hated. Is it? I mean, I'd love to ask you your
mm,
thoughts. I go to the cinema to watch a film.
mm,
I don't go to the movies to watch a movie without trying to be Harry Styles, right? And I feel like there's always been a clear divide of people that call it film, people that call it movies, without sounding like
mm.
Scorsese, 60 years younger, moaning about Marvel. It's Yeah, it was a podcast,
Mm,
and it was able to evolve quicker than I had hoped into a YouTube channel, which I was
yeah.
very grateful for. Dropped the word podcast, dropped it from being a twice a week show type thing.
Mm,
Obviously, do it with Tate. Tate came on board a couple of months after, and really
mm,
helped us in that jump to YouTube. He'd done YouTube stuff before,
mm,
so we're able to sort of modernize it. And as the years had gone by, I think like anything, I mentioned I'd started whilst I was doing my degree. Um, Obviously, I ended up working in industry, so I had to take a back seat for very obvious NDA reasons.
mm,
And then when I came out of that job, I was able to sort of go back to it. And in that year, obviously, I've learned a lot, but also
mm,
audiences change. Don't want to say
mm.
algorithms change, but we're not doing the, what do we call them? The Mr. Beast panicked emoticon
Yeah.
thumbnails. I mean,
Yeah.
I've got no issues with people
Mm,
that do, but I've done
mm,
2 thumbnails recently where it's me smiling, and that's bad enough. I'm not gonna pretend to do a face. It's just me holding films because like how to do a thumbnail
mm,
talking about home media films. And
mm.
yeah, side tangent. So I've tried to evolve it with both my interests, Tate's interests,
Yeah.
audience perceptions of cinema, and what I think unarrogantly put what the industry needs.
Yeah.
I look at the big issue right now is getting people to the cinemas. We're all going
Mm,
to go. We're into film.
yeah.
You look at Barbenheimer.
Mm,
Everybody went. the first and third highest grossing films of the year now. Um, Everyone turned up, and why was that? And that's going to be a study that universities do for the next probably 10 years of film studies. So good luck to
Yeah.
any people marking those. And I think that's kind of where I've always spoke about the cinema experience. It's a very important thing to me when I go to the cinema, and I want that experience of being there for whatever film, whatever purpose. And I kind of try to alleviate the channel towards that. We should be pushing people to go to the cinema, not for the sake of it, but when you've got that film that people should be going out to seek, it's what can we do to try and get people going there. And with that, you stem into talking more positively about films. We spoke again before we went live that you're similar to me, that we'll do a video, we'll talk about the positives of film, and we don't want to bash something. You don't want to go in. There are channels dedicated to doing so.
Yeah.
I hate Star Wars. Thank you for your 1.5 hour episodes about how much you hate Ahsoka. You did not just waste 12 hours of your own life. But there are audiences that enjoy listening to people that do bash on stuff. So certain demographics, certain audiences. I think this is more America than the UK, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And it's like, not that I'm not some white knight trying to fix YouTube, no. But it's like, I'd like to give them a different option. Or if there's a film I don't like, maybe I can try and pinpoint the good. But sometimes just watch something dreadful. And it's that. So, and then in line of the cinema stuff, obviously you've got an incredible home media collection. I'm bored of people moaning about streaming, and this is really horrible to say. When streaming was new, Netflix had basically everything, and we always kind of knew, right, that eventually Disney would do their own thing, and then it was Warner Brothers, and then it was this and that and that, and there's a streaming service for everything. I discovered a new one this week called Stars, but you have to have you have to have Prime Video to have Stars, I think, or something weird like that. So it's like, brilliant, a streaming service within a streaming service. So in my head, I buy physical media anyway. I'm happy to watch a film online if it's online, but I don't go out my way to be like, what's on Netflix today? Because I know that I've got a better collection than they do. So, and also I've got to justify buying films, which is a hobby within itself. I'm sure you'll know what it's like. And we just started doing more home media stuff because I think people are going more to physical media now. I feel that there are certainly people who, again, there's nothing wrong if you've had streaming services for years, but bills go up. These streaming services are putting their prices up, but is the quality of what's on there improving? No. Are they taking films away? Yes. Okay. So my mindset is, don't moan that this got took off Netflix. Buy it, own it, and then it'll never get taken from you again.
Exactly.
Robbed. So that's my mindset, and I'm trying to encourage people. And also, it's much better to have physical media anyway. The actual, like, if you get into the really, I'm not going to go into the OCD. Like, a 4K disc will look better than a 4K stream. Standard. So, sorry to dilute that, but that I don't know if that answers the question. But that's where we're at, or where I'm at least.
I mean, I pretty much agree with everything you said. I think I even said that me and Reese spoke about this on the episode that he was on. That, like, nowadays, I think our mindset was like, there's so much negativity being thrown around anyway. And considering, like, with film, there is so much put into making a film, whether it's a small one or a big one. I mean, my mindset, your mindset, Reese's mindset is like, we just want to be positive and want to try and promote the positive aspects of film, because first of all, like you said, there are tons of people just dumping all over cinema anyway, and secondly,
the laser eye thumbnails, sorry, you see them, and it's the same, and I just sorry, it just,
no, that's all right. It gets to a point where, like, so many people, I can think of a few Americanized channels specifically while I'm saying this, where they just hone in on the negativity. And I'm, again, as someone who is like an aspiring filmmaker myself, I know how hard it is to make something that's not even got a budget. Just trying to come up with an idea in the first place is impossible half the time. So knowing how hard it must have been to make something like Oppenheimer or Killers of the Flower Moon that is huge, I try and be as positive as I can, because I know how much work's gone into it. And if you're just going to be there slating it half the time, I just kind of don't see the point nowadays, because, like, there's so much negativity going around anyway. I just want to promote films that I think people are going to like, and do it in the best positive way that I can. And again, going off of what you said with the whole physical media thing, I've been that collection's been growing since 2012. I started that in 2012, and it's growing. It's got to the point where it's at a dangerous level. Um, but again, like if you have the physical copy, you're supporting the filmmaker a bit more directly than you are through streaming, and you have it. Like you have the copy. If it gets removed from Disney Plus, doesn't matter. You have the physical version. And I think there was an example where I think it was Battle Royale. The first time I watched that was through, I want to say, Mubi or one of the like artsy streaming sites, and the quality was fine. But then I bought the Blu-ray like a week later, and you don't have that issue of just buffering and it going through 1080p, 720, and then ping ponging between different qualities. You've got a consistent, great looking picture that you're going to have for as long as you have it.
Yeah, and I think something that happens quite a lot now is people that buy films digitally, they buy them off iTunes. The terms and conditions actually don't ever say you own it. It's just like an extended rental, and they can alter the versions of that film.
Yeah.
It was a film, I can't remember the name of the film. It is a classic. Something happened recently where there was like a 4K cut of the film and they updated it, but it took a scene away. I know that Disney own the rights because it all ended up kicking off with Disney. I can't remember what film. Maybe French Connection. I could be wrong, but
that sounds about right.
they've removed this this one moment that's going to offend people,
Mm.
and people are kicking off because it altered their digital copy. Like, wow,
Yeah.
not to be that guy because it's wrong what they've done, but if you bought it,
yeah,
you can't change it. So
no,
it's not a smug thing, but it is very much again like for people that if you look at how much you're spending, and again like it depends what streaming services you have, but sometimes if you don't use it, I mean, then I don't need it. We get Netflix for free as part of our Sky subscription, but I'm not paying the premiums to have 4K. I'm not paying anything extra because I don't believe in it and I don't use Netflix enough.
Yeah.
Whereas something like Disney Plus, I'm more than happy to pay for it because I know I get at least weekly shows of stuff I want to watch.
Yeah.
And the Disney Plus UK is much better than Disney Plus America. They don't have Star, which is all the Fox stuff we do, so it's not bad. Then they don't really take stuff off. Wow. Yes. But
we've yet to get to that point. But like it's a good thing you bring that up because like I know it's a similar example in a sense because last night I watched an American Werewolf in London for the first time, and it was through Amazon Prime, and none of the film was edited, but the subtitles were censored, but you could still hear the swearing. So like when one of them says shit, it's just the sentence with a line where that word would be, and I'm like, so you've not cut out the gore and the violence, you've not cut out him saying the swear word, but you've removed it from the subtitles. Okay. And that's again something you won't get on a physical version because it's the version that was there beforehand. It's the version that's unedited. So going back to your YouTube channel, Cinema Savvy, considering you do stuff like the David Fincher retrospective and all these like ongoing long series where you really delve into like a director's filmography or a specific franchise, I was tempted to ask the very difficult question of like what has been your favorite retrospective or deep dive that you've done so far on the channel?
Okay. It's tricky, because I want to. The answer is not Christopher Nolan, but we did that in 2020 in the lead up to Tenet, and we basically dedicated a month of videos to Christopher Nolan, which I'd waited years to do. My favorite director, the one that started everything. If I'm being honest with me, and that's when we found our footing again. And then we did follow that with the incredible, again, not to blow smoke, but we did a James Bond retrospective in the lead up to No Time to Die, which went on for like 6 months. So okay, that was a project, and I got to meet so many great people on there. The Bond fandom genuinely is like compared to Star Wars and the other ones I've been involved in, the ones I've witnessed and seen and heard about. The Bond ones are the most tame there is. The only thing we have to moan about is that there's not a film announced yet. And that was pretty great, and things clicked again. The one that nailed it for me was last year, which was the Steven Spielberg retrospective, only because we've done the Nolan one, which I loved. We've done a humongous franchise in Bond, and the way we sort of do it is we try not to have two series running at the same time.
Mm.
So it was like having like the main event. We get new releases, we get weekly like spoiler stuff for Star Wars or whatnot, but we don't want to have two director retrospectives at the same time, or a franchise overlapping with a director. So
Yeah.
it's always a very precise. We'll time it for a new release, or we'll do something. And after Bond, I was like, you know, I want to do another director. Very selfishly, the great thing about retrospectives is it ticks. You're going to watch every single film in chronological order,
Yeah.
and it's a wonderful way to tick off. Like this director, I can finally say I've seen everything. And the one I gravitated towards was Spielberg, who's my second favorite director after Nolan, whose work has had probably the biggest impact in almost film history. I'd say on the general audience, blockbuster creations, dramas. The fact that anyone who knows nothing about film can tell you who Steven Spielberg is, for a start. And I was like, I haven't seen all his films I want to, but I want to go through his whole career. And it's one of the biggest things I've pitched on the show. So the way it works, I mean, there's only two of us running it now, but if I had an idea, I'm pretty, when it comes to ideas, I have an idea in my head and I won't run with it. I will like then spend like 2 nights just like doing everything before it's like materialized. Like, I guess the new comparison is like Batman, the Rob Pattinson, where he's just like lying down in his like house and he's redone the room. I was like, I'll try a thumbnail template, and then I've made 36 overnight. So Spielberg was a big test, and it was like, can we get not just guess, but it's a big understudy for anyone. That's 30. I think it was 36 episodes. That's like 9 months. It's weekly videos. It's watching films weekly. It's on top of having a life, having a social aspect, doing screenings, doing releases, having again like personal hobbies outside of film, and it was just, to me that was the test. Like, can I pull it off? And I didn't expect. I said from day one, I was like, listen, I'm happy to host this by myself. I'll be the one responsible to get guests on. I don't think we'll struggle for Spielberg. Really unarrogantly put. It might be tricky for some of the lesser known films. But we did the series. And I absolutely loved every minute of it. Because I said he's one of my favorite directors. The behind the scenes week to week, doing the research, looking at the people he's collaborated with, being able to bring on people to the channel, or people I call my friends who maybe didn't know at the time, and be able to, like, you know, we go to these events. Like we got to go to Drinkston Film Festival together. Yes, people are in group chats and they chat with one another, but spend like an hour with them doing a video or two, and then the chat before and after and stuff like that. It was just really nice, and I enjoyed that series. And I'm very self-critical in my approach, and I don't want to just not do something. So to me, like, to look at that as a whole, that almost a year of work, was, if I'm being honest, probably one of the biggest achievements for me, at least doing a YouTube channel. And I think that set my standard for what to do moving forward, because I do like doing director retrospectives. But I just think everything clicked, and also just the varied films you'd watch. Like, I know it's a horrible comparison, but 1 week it's Jurassic Park, the next it's Schindler's List, right? You couldn't have anything more different. Again, he released in the same year. Don't know how. And it was the varying of themes of production, simultaneous productions in some cases. It was just so much fun to do. So I can't look past that. And to end it with a top 10 ranking, which I absolutely loved, and I loved the ranking, and it just showed the impact one filmmaker can have, even if us on a channel. And I hope that we did, not him justice. That sounds weird, but I would hope that if there are Spielberg fans out there, then it's not just people waffling about nonsense. It can be, and I've done that a lot over the years. But there was, I always call it like a celebration of his career. And obviously, The Fabelmans came out last year, so. In the headspace, it was, there's something to build up to. Thanks to UK release date being January, not November, like America. But that wasn't the purpose of doing that. He did a lot bigger films than The Fabelmans, as we all know.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think with someone like Spielberg, you have what you said. You have that variedness of his career. It's been going on for years, and he's got such a varied filmography. I can imagine how interesting that must have been. 1 week you're doing like a serious drama like, I don't know, Munich or Saving Private Ryan, and then the next week you're doing Ready Player One or the BFG or something a bit more lighthearted. Whereas something like the Nolan retrospective or the Fincher one, I suppose that's more interesting in the sense that, like, seeing their evolution as a filmmaker literally over weeks, and I think probably those two are probably the better examples. I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm guessing
No,
that's
I
the
mean,
case.
I can happily say, like, not to like falsely advertise our series. Like, we did James Cameron after very last minute did James Cameron, which
Mm.
was great fun because every week was like, well, look who he just tried to drown on set this week. With Finch has been different because
Mm.
tonally, it's more interesting that his films differ with regards to story, but there's the same consistency throughout.
Yeah.
And it's really weird to say, like, he hasn't really, maybe this is an understatement, but he hasn't really evolved as a filmmaker because he's a
Mm.
perfectionist. You're looking at From Seven, every film after is a David Fincher film.
Yeah.
Whereas with Spielberg, there's just so much of this radical back and forth every week. It was
Mm.
remarkable. And it's kind of it's made it harder to do ones after because
Mm.
it's just there's a whole wealth of films he's done, and again
Mm.
the quantity he'd done, like 34, 35. You've had a couple of clangers, fine,
Yeah.
but you've got the bangers to match it, whereas you get someone like
Yeah.
Fincher and it's like, if I'm being honest, there's one bad film out of 13.
Yeah.
Well, I've not seen The Killer yet, but maybe 1 out of 12 so far. So
Mm.
it's one of those where it's exciting to do, and
Mm.
it feels like it gives us a bit of identity that whilst we're talking about bringing people back to the cinemas, celebrating the auteurs that have maybe done this for us over the years. And
Mm.
I think that's the key for me is that we're not just picking directors for the sake of it. I mean, there's an endless list of directors we could do. We've
Yeah.
had requests, and speaking of requests, the most amazing thing about the Spielberg one is obviously as a channel, it's difficult to get guests.
Yeah.
We've had like a core group of people we've had jump on over the years. We've had new people been able to bring on. Steven Spielberg.
Mm.
When I started messaging people saying, we're looking at doing this year, it's going to be a big task. The
Mm.
way I'd even do it, if anyone's curious about like behind the scenes logistics,
Mm.
I just pop the message, say, hey, I'd love to get you on for a video. We're going to be doing insert director here this year. Do you have
Mm.
any films of his you'd love to go on a video for, or something that means a lot, blah, blah, blah? It's Spielberg, right? People would come back with like 10, 15. And I had like a spreadsheet with every single Spielberg film and the requests that came in. And it was trying to organize it week to week. Obviously, it was great because there's always someone that not horribly put it be free. It's not like it's an audition or anything cruel, but we'd try and work around everybody. But if that couldn't
Yeah.
work, we were lucky that there was always other people. Not
Mm.
there were backups. If someone's been on 4 times, someone's been on 1, we'd try and get that person to be on an extra time so that they've had a few more goes with us.
Yeah.
And it's about sort of sharing the platform, and that's why like the name Cinema Savvy. I never came up with the name. I'll be truthful. I'm still not the biggest fan of the name. There's nothing we can
Mm.
ever do. It's branding. It's part of it.
Yeah.
But I never wanted it to have my name or anyone else's name because,
Mm.
and I've got no problem with any channel that does. Especially most channels are run independently, so it makes sense to have a name. But if what I'm doing is encouraging, I'm not going to the cinema, but if the channel's about film,
Mm.
the industry, working in it, taking part in it, looking back, looking forwards,
Yeah.
shouldn't have in my headspace. It shouldn't have my name in it.
No.
People might like that, which is great, and I love, and that's not a problem with any other channel in the world.
Mm.
But in my headspace, like the thumbnails aren't me; it's
Mm.
the film. In my head, the film should always be the forefront of what you're talking about, not me as a person. So again,
Mm.
that's not a discredit to any other creator, but I think if people can see my approach of where I am, that I'm not putting myself as the main event or anything.
Mm.
What I'm going to be talking about, yes, you can probably lose views doing that because the algorithms say pull a funny face, do bright text, do big fonts.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, I want to use the Star Wars font on the Star Wars video. Okay,
Mm.
that's yellow onto black, so it's going to work.
Mm.
But yeah, it's really fascinating. But
Mm.
yeah, the Spielberg stuff I love, and I go back. I don't rewatch old videos, but when I'm like going through like channel stats and I look at that and I'm like, bloody hell,
Yeah.
like 9 months.
Mm.
It'd be remarkable to do something similar. And with it being a heavy task, it was into this year. It was like, okay, we've done Spielberg. That's 36. We're already going to do Mission Impossible. We were going to do Denis Villeneuve.
Mm.
And then Cameron popped up. So that's like 3 different
Yeah.
series, the same length for Spielberg, spread out across the year. And who knows for next year, maybe it will be another deep dive across a big name director. There's a couple in mind, but we haven't logistically figured it out yet because SAG strikes. We don't know what films are coming out. But yeah, sorry, that's a long-winded answer to that question, I guess.
No, I completely get where you're coming from, especially when I started my channel. I think I darted between like two names before I settled on Aaron at the movies, and even then, I don't particularly like the name now because it's
But,
just
but
not
but
great.
the logic is you're going to the cinema, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I like is that we spoke about Reese positive POV.
Mm,
We spoke about positivity. That's everything you need to know, and
mm,
that's what it should be. I'm going to go to that channel immediately because it's already. I don't need everything to be positive, but
mm,
I'm not going to go on. If I wanted to watch
yeah.
someone bash a film, that's
Mm,
maybe not the channel that I'm going to go and find. So
no.
I think that as long as the channel name says what you're going to do, that's the
Mm,
main thing. And if it is like a celebration cinema,
yeah.
then it works. But it's tricky with channel names because I guess because when you're used to saying your own channel name, you sort of not take a disliking to it, but it's
Yeah.
it's the very first thing anyone ever does. And
Mm,
I didn't mind it not being my
mm,
idea. I didn't actually have an idea for a name, so that sort of makes me a hypocrite as such. But I made the logo, so there's my
mm.
contribution.
um. So again, another question that I like asking everyone, even though everyone struggles when I ask it, is if you can remember at all, if you can, what was the first film that you remember that sparked your love for cinema in the first place?
Okay, there's two,
Okay.
but one of them's the correct answer. Um, well, I've got the Phantom Menace quad behind me, so that's the first ever film I got taken to the cinema to watch at the ripe old age of 3 in a month.
Yeah.
So my parents hadn't. Well, my mom was in Star Wars, my dad hadn't, which was the biggest plot twist of my teenage years. Finding out that he was also the first time I watched Star Wars, and he didn't have me young either. Didn't have me old. They were like normal age. So why
Mm,
didn't you watch them in the 70s? Anyway, um, so it's interesting because I grew up loving Star Wars. Like Star Wars,
mm,
the Star Wars, Lego Star Wars games, anything Star Wars was I'd want basically.
yeah.
But I've never. That wasn't. I didn't grow up being like, I want to be in a Star Wars one day. Like I turned 9 years old. Well,
Mm,
I was 8 and almost 9. Revenge of the Sith came out, and I was like, well, it's over now. Obviously we were wrong. So that played a humongous part in I guess putting the things in place right for what would happen.
yeah. Yeah.
And then a week after I turned 12, The Dark
Mm,
Knight came out. Now
mm,
I grew up on Batman Forever, Batman and Robin,
mm,
60s Batman. Had never seen Tim Burton's films.
mm,
Didn't really care to watch them if I'm being honest.
mm,
Um, and we were on holiday in Spain, and I don't know if anyone's ever done this on holiday. You have to like walk back in the day, pre-internet. You'd have to walk to get a shop to
mm,
get the newspapers in English.
yeah.
And it was all these reviews of this Dark Knight film, and it was the very typical, really angry. I guess we call them Karens now. The review was like, "I could not believe what I was watching. That
Mm,
this is a rated 12A film, and they put a smoke grenade in someone's mouth." I was like, "They put a smoke grenade in someone's mouth. Let me in." All right, and it was this huge. It was an event, wasn't it? It was the
mm,
third or fourth highest gross film in history when it came out.
yeah.
We came back from Spain, and we have a weird routine. But always go to the cinema the day after we had a family holiday. Don't know why
Mm,
it became a thing, but it did. And I hadn't seen Batman Begins. No one else had. They went to H&B. They picked up Batman Begins and watched it, and then we went to watch the Dark Knight the next day. I didn't actually
mm,
watch Batman Begins until after. So the
okay.
opening, so I'm like, "Who's this scarecrow geezer?"
Mm,
So but also, you don't need to watch Batman Begins to watch The Dark Knight,
no.
and people need reminders of that sometimes when they talk about franchises. That not everyone. I'm not saying people are thick, but you don't need to watch every film ever to understand what you're watching.
No.
Uh, Unfortunately, some franchises push you in a direction where you actually do need to watch like every film ever to watch it. But
Mm,
I won't name drop them for you guys. But The Dark Knight changed everything. I
yeah.
watched that film. I'd never seen Heath Ledger or anything, so obviously I was wowed by the Joker. Then sort of gutted you'd read they'd passed away. Christian Bale, I think that might have been the first one I saw him in, and I was like, and I couldn't even sit there and say who's this director. I didn't really know the function of directors. I knew Spielberg, I knew Lucas,
Mm,
I knew Gore Verbinski because I used to watch the Dead Man's Chest behind the scenes a lot. Very weird thing.
mm,
But I couldn't get over this Dark Knight film, and it just
yeah.
stuck with me for months. So I only saw it once at the cinema. This is obviously way,
Mm,
I was 12, I'm not going to get money to go to watch the same film every week.
yeah.
You had to wait until the DVD and the Blu-ray, and that just changed it. I started, okay, I want to see more films from these cast members. I want to see
Mm,
more films from these. I need Michael Caine because you like a lot of people, you can at least one or two of his films growing up, and you know, that's the end of year seven, so it's the summer holidays from year seven to year eight. You're at that age where you're finding your new hobbies. I'm really into
Yeah.
football and F1 at this point. But I want to be a bit more than just a film guy at school. At the same time, you want to get bullied at school, so you want to tell everybody you're into film. You know, that's just how it is.
Mm.
I was very smart. No one ever knew I liked Star Wars at school, which was the most remarkable thing. I was able to keep
Wow.
quiet. Obviously, my friends knew, but also it finished, hadn't it? So who was talking
Mm.
about Star Wars in 2007 through to 11? And
Mm.
yeah, I started watching more films from this director guy. I'd watched more films from other directors. I've
Mm.
got a neighbor we're very close to who, across the school years, I'd get invited every Thursday. He'd call it lads night. It was just him and his best mate.
Mm.
And they'd put on classic films. And when I say
Mm.
classic films, I'm talking, it was Thursday night's film night, and I watched Heat for the first time there, Top
Mm.
Gun, Predator, Terminator 2, you name it, those kinds of classic films.
Yeah.
I was able to watch them across a couple of years, and I owe a lot to them, because whilst getting into film, you're trying to educate yourself on the history of it. So getting
Mm.
different audiences, and obviously, as you know, again, didn't have a job when you're at school, right? So you can't go and search for films. Yeah,
Yeah.
you'd be able to. You could find some online. There wasn't streaming services back then, you know. So you have Film 4. They always
Mm.
show a good film at 9 o'clock, and I sort of know everything's the Dark Knight. At that point, I started learning about cinematography. I know that everybody does their insert generic cinematography XYZ. You know,
Mm.
not mocking it, but everyone's had that same. Actually, first year at A levels, what do you want to be? Cinematographer, brilliant. I bet they haven't had that before. And then you realize very quickly, no, that's not what I want to do.
Mm.
It's just I like things looking pretty.
Mm.
So yeah, I owe a lot to the Dark Knight, and as the years have gone by, and you know, you watch more Nolan films, you look at his stature, his name. I can't help but I'm so grateful it was that film,
Mm.
that it was who would go on to be my favorite director, who I think sort of leading the charge, even for things like shooting on film. I don't do filmmaking.
Yeah.
I wish I could. I wish I had the budget to want to do all the ideas. But I have this insane respect for him doing so.
Yeah.
And it's even these other things like encouraging the shooting on film stuff,
Mm.
which, you know,
Yeah.
people think sounds old school, but then you read into it yourself, like, no, this guy's like, he's right.
Mm.
And we sit here with our 4K remasters of all these
Mm.
films from the early noughties, which look dreadful on 4K because they were shot digitally 1080p,
Yeah.
versus these classic films restored properly on reel, because
Mm.
film 35mm can go up to, I think, 8K or
Mm.
12K or something, a very high number that we'll probably never get to.
Yeah.
Um, and it's just remarkable. So the Dark Knight I owe everything to, and in a very
Mm.
personal thing, the 10th, there were 10th anniversary screenings at the BFI IMAX in 2018. Now I've been there to watch the
Mm.
Dunkirk again, like, you know, it's like
Yeah.
Mecca for an Anna fan is the BFI, and
Yeah.
the weekend, and it's so cringy because also the job didn't work out. But when I was working, you know, finished uni, you're in like your
Mm.
standard job till you get a job in the industry. I
Yeah.
got offered the job that in the film industry the day I was traveling down to London to watch the Dark Knight for its 10th
Mm.
anniversary. So that was a bit eerie, a
Yeah.
bit on the nose.
Mm.
And those sorts of things I normally sort of, you know, roll my eyes at, but that did happen. And there's a really hilarious irony that obviously, you know, I lasted a year at the place. It was a terrible company to work for.
Mm.
I left on my own accord, not anything else. And
Mm.
yeah, so the Dark Knight's the one for me. And
Okay.
I owe everything. And that's where sort of Star Wars comes in, because Star Wars sort of set the stone for where I'd ended up going, I think. And obviously
Yeah.
then Star Wars came back, which was a massive drive of moving forward within the industry as well.
Mm. Funny enough, you say all that. I mean, I was very similar to you in that sense because I watched. For me, the film that sparked it was Inception. So it was kind of a lot of what you said, but like just a few years later with
Yeah.
his next film. Um, but I was kind of the same. I was like the resident film person at secondary school. No one else really shared that, and it wasn't until like the last year of secondary school that I found someone, and I actually had someone to talk to film
Yeah.
talk to about film. Got the words right eventually. Um, and yeah, it is a weird one because I think that's half the reason why I started collecting Blu-rays because I read Empire magazine back then, and I was like, right, what are some of these classics that I need to be watching because I love
Yeah.
the films I've seen so far, like Social Network and The Inception and Fight Club. And I think that's where that collecting thing kind of stuck. It was like, okay, here's Empire's list of like 500 great films. Which ones can I easily get on Blu-ray? Started
Yeah.
building a collection. I was like, this is probably, again, like you said, around like the early 2010s. Streaming sites weren't really a thing, so buying them on Blu-ray was like the next best thing because you have it, you can watch it whenever you want. If you don't like it, you can hand it in at like a second-hand thing, and
Yeah.
that's kind of the beauty of in those early stages, kind of finding out what your taste in film is. You can kind of go through it. If you don't like certain things, you don't. If you do, you do. And especially, it usually happens around that sort of age where you start to figure out, okay, I think I know what I do like and don't like. And I was also similar to you in the sense that I watched The Dark Knight before Batman Begins, and I don't know why that was, because I never saw The Dark Knight in the cinema. I saw it on Blu-ray for the first time. No, DVD for the first time, I think. Yeah, I don't know why that was, but
I
yeah.
don't think it's uncommon. I think if we're
Mm,
being really honest, how many Bond fans sit there and say, "Well, I watched, this after that," and
mm,
I think because of where we are now with our ages and what we're into,
yeah,
that we know the MCU is the obvious one, right?
yeah,
Our age group has been there from the get go, pretty
yeah.
much, give or take a year or two after. And
Mm,
I think today's kids will grow up and they'll go to the cinema to watch a Marvel film. I'm sure they do,
mm,
but to them that'll be their entry point. Whereas we were there from the beginning. That sounds
yeah.
so arrogant, but
I know what you
it's
mean.
it's it's gonna be like always. I was six when Spider-Man came out,
Yeah.
and that was my entry point. But then the
Mm,
first X-Men film I saw was X-Men 3. You
okay.
know,
Yeah.
so I just think when you're younger, you don't really have a say in what the first one's going to be. I was
Mm,
lucky. I watched Phantom Menace first.
mm,
It was the very first one I watched the cinema.
mm,
But I know people that's first one was Attack of the Clones.
mm,
So I think it just depends on. It's a combination of factors, isn't it? And I don't. I
yeah.
think until you sort of like the way I see it, until you've got your own job and your own money, etc., your entry point's going to be whatever the entry point is
Yeah.
compared to now, where you do watch everything.
No, I totally agree. And I think back then when you're significantly younger, I mean, I think the first few films I ever saw in the cinema was a bit of a mixed bag because I think I have this weird memory where like I think the first ever film I saw was like Finding Nemo back in 2003. But then like the year after, the first like proper film, not to say Finding Nemo is not a proper film, it's brilliant, but like the first superhero film I watched was Spider-Man 2. I think I had seen Spider-Man
Don't
previously
remember.
on like the TV, but I remember Spider-Man 2 being the first like proper big big film with people in that I
Yeah, it
saw.
was massive. I remember the Empire cover for Spider-Man 2 my uncle bought me, and it was like
Yeah.
I don't know what the material is, but it was like 3D, and it was Spider-Man
Mm.
swinging at the camera. And I was like, this is perfect.
So while we're on the topic of just general like film journey, I usually ask these two questions kind of separately, but I think considering we're on this topic anyway, I'm going to kind of mash them together. First of all, are there any popular slash classic films that you've still not seen yet that you've yet to tick off your list? And on the same topic, what is possibly one of the worst films you've ever seen?
Okay, the class. There's two blatant classics I've not seen,
Hmm.
and in a non-snob, I'm in no rush to see them, and I own both of them, and they'll be watched when they're watched. But
Okay.
equally at the top, you've got Citizen Kane and Casablanca, and that is the film
Right.
snob reply.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure they are great. I've picked them both up on 4K.
Yeah.
I hear amazing things about both of them. I've actually tried to watch Citizen Kane 3 times and failed. Try is like the main thing there, and I've lasted about 10 minutes each time.
Hmm.
It's all about the mindset, the mood, what you're in for, and
Yeah.
they've just eluded me. And there's that it's an endless list where there's always classics. And
Hmm.
I saw Singing in the Rain for the first time this year, which I absolutely adored. And
Hmm.
I can't look beyond those two. I'm put them there equally because they're the two that
Hmm.
people get the pitchforks out. He's not Citizen Kane, but I'm just not as bothered. The worst film I've ever seen. Christ Almighty. Okay, I feel like movie 43 is the one that's in my head.
Okay.
Now, I wanted to watch this when it came out, which is why I think it's worse. I
Yeah.
think it came out in
Mm.
2013, but you had
Yeah.
all these amazing A-listers like
Mm.
this is, and I didn't see it in the cinema. I heard it was terrible,
Mm.
and I did watch it at home
Mm.
via non-legal methods at that age. Then I remember as mega upload, you'd get like 70 minutes free a day and come back in 3 hours.
Yeah.
That's where we were at, and I watched it and it was just so bad. But I remember watching this. Is I love it. I love entertaining terrible films. Like The
Yeah.
Room's the obvious one that everyone says, right? The
Yeah.
Room is an experience,
Oh yeah.
and I got to see it on the big screen,
Mm.
and maybe 43 was just painful. I was watching it,
Mm.
and I don't normally crap on films, but I was just there like, what am I doing myself watching this?
Yeah.
So I think in terms of, I'm sure there are worse films because those worse films have never
Yeah.
been picked up. They've been distributed by a terrible company or something. But from
Mm.
what I've seen, I have to look at movie 43. There's a couple of other standout ones I have in my head.
Mm.
Alien vs Predator Requiem always comes
Oh
to
God.
mind. I just remember watching. I was like, I actually can't. People moan about Game of Thrones not
Mm.
seeing that battle at Winterfell.
Yeah.
Go watch Alien vs Predator. You can't see anything in Requiem.
Uh,
And then recently I've written down two films that I think, without sounding like I'm going to moan, sorry to extend this.
no, it's all right.
Everything that's wrong with modern cinema, I call these, and I've got a Gran Turismo and a Space Jam: A New Legacy.
Okay.
So they're
Fair
like
enough.
recent ones that I'd rather
Mm.
honestly sit through a lot of other things than experience that. But yeah, it has to be movie 43, right? Just because of the people
Mm.
involved
Yeah.
makes it worse. And I know as we're older, right, those sort of situation like comedy sketch films are
Mm.
pretty terrible as a whole.
Yeah.
But Hugh Jackman had balls hanging off his face. They're like, come on, Hugh Jackman, like really, like you're better than this. And I think that's what makes it worse is the people involved.
Yeah. I, I do get what you mean because like I've never seen movie 43, but 2013, 2014, when I was like starting to get into like YouTube film reviews and like watching people like Chris Stuckman and Jeremy Johns, and I just heard all these people like dumping on this film, which I know from the trailer I actually kind of
I
looked
thought it
kind
was
of into.
funny.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
trailer actually looked really interesting, and I was like, well, you've got the people that made Dumber and Dumber, and you've got this cast that looks incredible, and I'm like, okay, this actually looks quite interesting. And then I saw the reviews, and they just got progressively worse, and I'm like, okay, now I want to watch it purely just to see how crap it is.
yeah.
And I still haven't seen it. Which the funny thing is, and I've said this on a couple of episodes of this show, is that with like these main questions that I asked, no one's repeated an answer yet. Whether it's the 5 movies on a desert island, which we'll get to in a minute, or the classics one, no one's repeated one yet. You're the second person to say movie 43, and I
Yeah,
find,
I thought so.
yeah, Charlie was the only other person to say movie 43. And the fact that that film specific, like I was expecting The Room to come up a couple times, I was expecting Birdemic to come up a couple times, but I just love the fact that movie 43 has come up twice now. I just love that. And also, you're not alone. I've seen Citizen Kane. I quite like it, but I've not seen Casablanca either. There's a lot of older films from that
So
era
many.
that I've not even
Yeah,
close to
my
watching.
like 30s to 60s film history isn't as good as my sort of 70s to
Mm.
90s. Yeah, I'm still sitting in those three, ticking off countless films. And then I will deep dive further back one day.
Yeah. If you ever decide to do like a retrospective of the worst films of all time, I'm happy to I'm happy to sit on like a 3-person round table, you, me, Charlie. I will watch movie 43 and we can just delve into it.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because you look at some of YouTube, and I'm not going to name channels, but like you ask them what's the worst one of all time, they'll
Mm,
say they'll say The Last Jedi, or they'll
mm,
say Indiana Jones and King, not King of the Crystals. Yeah, King of the Crystal
yeah,
Skull. Sorry, I just get mixed up.
yeah.
Because like the mindset for those is I get people hate them, but
Mm,
that's disappointment. That's not the film itself.
yeah.
And I think there's such a fine line between what film disappoints you versus what film's bad.
Oh yeah.
And I guess there's certainly overlaps of sorts,
Mm,
but that's how I've always felt. It's like when someone says, "What's your favorite film you've ever seen?" and "What's the best one you've ever seen?" They
yeah.
could be the same answer, but really, that
Yeah.
they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
That's really snobby, isn't it? But yeah,
No,
that's
I
my headspace.
I completely get what you mean, because there's a difference between a film you actively don't like, which you maybe were excited for. I can't think of an example in my head, but you've got that, and then there are films that are just straight up just not good, like movie 43, or like my one of my go-to examples is M. Night Shyamalan's The Happening, because, which is just a mess of a film.
I've never seen it.
You're really
I've
not missing much.
I've I've seen. I was thinking this earlier when oh god, I can't remember the name of it. Knock at the cabin, knock at the door.
Yeah,
Sorry, the one
Knock at the
from say.
Cabin. No.
I was going through it. I was like, I've not really actually seen many Shyamalan films, and I've
Mm,
actually met him, which is even weirder.
mm,
He's a really nice guy, but yeah, I've not seen many of his films. And
mm,
I've heard after the first sort of two or three, it's a downward spiral, then it goes up. But
yeah.
maybe one day. What I respect massively with Shyamalan is that it's all original films, and I've
Mm,
got far more time for an original film that's backfired versus
yeah.
like an IP that's just disgraceful.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, it's
I'm in
weird side tangent.
no, I'm in the same mindset. I admire Shyamalan, but his filmography is like the most varied mixed bag you can ever get from a filmmaker. Because I love Sixth Sense. I love it. What's it called? Unbreakable. I adore that
Yeah.
one, and I love Split. But then there are other ones like The Happening, and I've not even bothered watching After Earth because I've just heard
I was
it's
about to say
really boring.
this is like the gazillionth time this week where we're also just going to pop up into a conversation and announce, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. I didn't intend for that to happen, but it just kind of did.
It's all right.
So on that note, I'm going to ask the big question that I give to everyone, and it's probably the hardest question everyone always says is the that I ask them on this series. If you were stranded on a desert island and could only have 5 films with you, what are you choosing and why?
Okay. Do you want the list of five, then me to go into each answer, or do you just want
Yeah,
them
that
all in
might be
one?
the good way to do it. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, as a disclaimer, the four of these were incredibly easy to come up with, and that's not a disgrace to the question.
Hmm.
This was how quick in my head I was to pinpoint.
Okay.
Revenge of the Sith,
Okay.
Spider-Man (brackets 2002). Yes, that's
Hmm.
Spider-Man. Dumb and Dumber,
Nice.
Cast Away,
Okay.
and the fifth film I have really struggled with, and I keep umming and ahhing. So I'm gonna officially decide the fifth film after we talk about Castaway. But I go through
Okay.
the others one by one. Revenge of the Sith, self-explanatory. I'm not
Mm.
taking a Star Wars film with me,
Yeah.
and really it ended up being: do I pick? I don't want to pick two,
Mm.
because it robs it. If it was 6 films, thank God you didn't say, because I'd say Stars 1, 6, job done. But yeah, I just can't make two work. So
Mm.
Revenge of the Sith, it's the most watchable.
Yeah.
It's, as we spoke about that favorite versus best discussion, it's my favorite Star Wars film. It's the
Mm.
most memeable. It's the one I've got the memories to. I wanted to be Anakin Skywalker when I was that age watching that film,
Mm.
and meme culture has took it to the nth degree. So Revenge of the Sith, you are safe.
Mm.
Spider Man out
Yeah.
in 2002. There's going to be a bit of a trend of these where I'm sort of looking at films when I'm younger. So the logic is for me,
Yeah.
forget the films. I'm stuck on a desert island, so
Mm.
I'm not going to get if I'm not being rescued, I'm going out on a level of comfort I've not had before. If I'm going to get rescued, then it will be
Mm.
easier by these films I'm choosing. But
Yeah.
I was 5 when this came out, May 2002. The first
Mm.
ever film that had 12A in the UK, because my
Mm.
sister had just turned 12 and she was fuming that I was allowed to go. And I mean, yes, the Spider-Man 2 game's out and I've been playing it all weekend, but
Mm.
comfort films. Sam Raimi, this film, my favorite origin film ever for a superhero type thing, the
Mm.
impact it's had on my childhood, teen years, etc., etc.
Yeah.
I guess we can't talk about Danny Elfman at the moment, but one of my favorite ever superhero themes, one of my favorite performances from a villain in Willem Dafoe.
Mm.
Superb. Got to come with me.
Oh yeah.
Perfect pacing. I can watch it on repeat endlessly, so
Yeah.
I'm going to be entertained. And if I befriend some people on the island, then I'll choose some Spider-Man too. Third one, Dumb and Dumber. This is comfort
Yeah.
level. This is one of those films where if I'm ever ill, I put Dumb and Dumber on.
Mm.
I've never known why. It's just been a thing across my whole life. It's the
Mm.
film I laugh at most. Jim Carrey's my favorite comedy actor. He always
Mm.
will be. But just watching this as a kid endlessly as I'm older. Bad news, put Dumb and Dumber on. Good news, you
Mm.
can put Dumb and Dumber on. It's just a really fun time.
Yeah.
And then I've gone for Castaway, and the reason why is I feel like, without stating the obvious, I've never seen it.
Yeah.
So there's some cruel self-depreciative irony that if I take a film I've not seen with me,
Yeah.
and it's the film where someone's stuck on a desert island, then
Mm.
that is going to be the one that you know, I can at least watch something new and tick something off a list. I can,
Yeah.
if I don't like it, then I'm screwed. But at least I can watch it again until I like it. I've tried that before with the Star Wars film; it didn't work. But
Funnily enough, Corey, who was in my last episode, made that joke. He was like, "I'm surprised." He said, "I was surprised no one's gone for Castaway yet, just because of the joke of it." And the fact that you've now chose Castaway, I just love the fact that that you've gone for
but
that.
it's more as like I want a film I've not seen.
Mm,
And
mm,
I think that balanced it, because it's great to be surrounded by comfort films, but I
yeah,
do need something new.
yeah,
Um, and then the fifth one I'm going to stick with is
mm.
2014's Godzilla.
That's a
Uh,
good choice. That is a really good choice.
Only because, again, I'm thinking this desert island, and I'm
Mm,
thinking about all this nuclear bomb tests. So
like,
it wasn't. Again, I'm trying to picture something. Again, no
mm,
one knows how long you're going to be stranded on a desert island for. So
mm,
if I start hallucinating, I'd rather hallucinate about like Godzilla emerging from the sea or something like that, compared to, say,
mm,
here's a deep drama that's going to have me crying every night. No, let's just have a
yeah,
giant kaiju battle.
mm,
And I just think visually be there. Part of me thought Jaws is the film I'm afraid of most.
mm,
But then that would, if any chance came, I can't go in the sea. That's like my main flavor. So I ain't watching Jaws if I'm on a desert. If I'm stuck on this desert island. So
mm,
Godzilla can go in for the new. That great opening sequence with all the documents, all the tests, and
yeah,
it kind of. And again, I couldn't go Rogue One because I really picked a Star Wars film, another Gareth
yeah,
Edwards film.
mm,
Because you've got the shooting at the Maldives, which was amazing. But
yeah,
that's my five. It's a bit of a varied
mm,
choice, but the key is three comfort films,
mm,
which I mainly have, because I don't know how long I'm going to be there for.
mm.
Um, I'm not going to be snobby. I mean, I'm not going to ask you, but I'd be very curious to know like what setups you could build on a desert island for watching films.
I do find it funny with this question is everyone always like questions the logistics of it.
It does though. It always depends.
I mean, in my head, I'm presuming like it's a cruise liner that's crashed, and you're taking advantage of the cinema that was on board of it. Like
Okay,
that's all the thing that's in my head for some reason.
no, that's good. That's a good surround sound. Revenge of the Sith is justified with Spider-Man,
Yeah.
Godzilla. We're looking good.
Oh yeah.
The setup is key, and this
Yeah.
is what I want to go with. So
Mm.
like if someone's like, oh, you have like a 4-inch like phone, like, well, thank God I didn't pick a Christopher Nolan one. Although
Yeah.
if it was like a 6-inch screen, you put a Nolan
Mm.
film on,
Mm.
there might be a helicopter that flies out with him on it, just sort of throttle you for not watching it in IMAX. So that's one way to get off the island, at least.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, the other thing I had in my head was like you're just like Sod's Law stuck with like an old 2006 portable DVD player.
Remember the
That
PSPs? You could watch films on the PSPs back in the
yeah.
day.
Every time anyone asks me, that the usual thing I have mentally in my head is like, you're on a cruise liner, it's crashed, and somehow there's still power on board. You're gonna take advantage of the
Yeah,
cinema facilities. But I really like that five. There's a lot of variety there, and I think, like you even said, Revenge of the Sith, Dumber and Dumber, and Spider-Man specifically, so much rewatch value. Like especially that whole Sam Raimi trilogy. I could watch them God knows how
I'm
many
gonna
times.
rewatch them this week. Like
Mm,
I've smashed the context. I've smashed the Spider-Man 2 game.
mm,
And I as soon as I unlocked the black suit Raimi suit, it's so
mm.
sad. I went onto YouTube, put the meme
Yeah.
theme on, and was just playing it while I was swinging around the city at night, and it was
Mm,
so satisfying to another level. But the
mm,
Raimi films, I did not think at the age of 6 the cultural impact that would have on my life growing up.
mm,
And it's remarkable what those films have done. I guess for the
mm,
industry as well. Actually, that I don't think is. I know people will talk about Blade, people talk about X-Men, but
mm.
without the gigantic hit that was Spider-Man 2002,
Yeah.
I don't think you then get the boom of the late noughties. And then
No.
Spider-Man 2 back to back, like here's two phenomenal films.
Yeah.
Again, popular, successful.
Mm.
Um, yeah, sorry, Cyphes, I could talk about the Raimi films for hours.
Oh yeah. I mean I think I could as well because I'm one of the few people where like I know Spider-Man 3 is not the best film in the world, but if you like any of those three films, I could just watch them on constant repeat. Because again, Spider-Man 2 was the first one I saw in the cinema. I remember very distinctly seeing Spider-Man 3 in the cinema because the bit where Eddie Brock turns into Venom and then just leaps at the screen scared the living shit out of like 7, 8 year old me, or however old I was at the time. I love those films so much. I could just go
I
back
think
and watch
Spider-Man
them.
3 is one of the most underrated films ever made
Yep.
because it disappointed people, not because of the film itself. And actually, it's not Sam Raimi's fault.
Mm.
It's all Avi
Studio.
Arad and all the studio system. Yeah,
Yeah.
Sony, the kings. Um, Sorry, we don't want your Spider-Man 4 featuring the lizard. Here's a terrible reboot featuring the lizards. That's thank you. Sorry,
uh,
not Andrew Garfield's fault. I'll give him credit too. It's not Andrew Garfield's fault.
no. To be honest, Andrew Garfield actually delivered in both of those films. It was again studio issues. But I think there was even a point when I was a kid and I'd just come out of Spider-Man 3 where I actually preferred it way more than the first two. But then, like, over the years, Spider-Man 2 is my favorite of the trilogy. I love all three of them and I always have. But, like, I think it was just the rush of seeing Venom on screen and, like, the team up near the end. And I still
Yeah,
think all the stuff he does with Sandman is
it's
fucking
excellent.
brilliant.
Yeah.
I could, like I said, like you said, we could talk about Sam Raimi Spider-Man films for ages, but we got an episode to wrap up. Just to wrap things up, I know there's not much left of the year anyway, but are there any upcoming releases that are left of 2023 that you are particularly looking forward to, or would you say are noteworthy?
You know what? I'm gonna get a lot of comments of this.
Okay.
I can't wait for this year to round out the film. I think it's been a great year, and there's going to
Mm.
be some unbelievable dramas.
Yeah.
We're heading into award season. Obviously, I didn't go to the festival, so I missed out on some. But
Mm.
I know technically in the UK we'll end up with a load of it in January. But
Mm.
I don't care for Wonka, Aquaman. I won't be watching. Um, in terms of big releases, I mean, I'm not overdue being moved, which would have been this
Mm.
weekend. I
Mm.
still think it's going to get moved from March,
Yeah.
but there will be something, no doubt.
Yeah.
But now that Killers of the Flower Moon's been out,
Yeah.
that was my kind of like not last hurrah for the year, but I'm really looking
Mm.
forward to this. And there will be something. I'm curious for the Hunger Games. Curious is like
Mm.
an overstatement, maybe, but
Yeah.
there's at least a few films.
Mm.
Beyonce's apparently having a concert film. Won't be watching that anyway, but it says all that we're getting concert films now, not actual films. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm looking forward to the SG strike ending and seeing
Mm.
the reaction when the studios actually pay them what they should.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna happen in December, ready for award season in January / project starting up in January to film. So it's a really negative way to end it. I'm sure there will be a lot of the killer. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to seeing. Obviously,
Mm.
Chicken Run. I missed the festival. I'm looking forward to
Yeah.
see.
Same.
Don't want to be advertising Netflix, but here I am.
Yeah.
There will be some. I'm 100% sure there will be some. They're slipping
Mm.
off my head. Um, but yeah, I struggle. I can't get over
Mm.
Gene. I'm sorry. Just
No.
one. I mean, apparently the new Wonka trailer is good, but and I like China
Yeah.
Chocolate Factory, but
Mm.
do I need to see Timothy Chalamet's Willy Wonka?
I
No,
mean,
I'd like to see you as Paul Atreides and finish your story, please.
yeah. I do get what you mean because outside of Killers of the Flower Moon, everything else coming out this year is like I'm intrigued, but not like over the moon. Like Wonka, I'm intrigued to see it, see what they do with it, and considering it's Paul King who did the Paddington films, I love those two movies. I'm intrigued to see what he does, but I'm not over the moon for it. The same goes for Hunger Games. I love the first four films, and I'm intrigued, but I'm not like over the moon for it. And like even Disney's Wish, like I'm intrigued, but it's more of a case of like we'll wait and see um,
Yeah,
with that one. But yeah, there's nothing really. I guess Chicken Run, like you said, is like the big one that I'm excited for purely because I missed it at the festival, which I
festival.
was so gutted about. Like everyone was talking about, are you seeing Poor Things or are you seeing Chicken Run? I was like, I'm seeing neither because I'm not there. I'm annoyed at both. Um, so on that note, George, it's been brilliant having you on here. let everyone know where they can find you, even though we've kind of already explained that near the start, but just let them know where they can find you on all the socials.
Yeah, get us on Cinema Savvy on YouTube. So we're mainly on there for videos and whatnot. We do shorts, we do reviews, discussions, you name it. We've got a lot of stuff happening at the planning at the moment. November, we're going to be doing some Doctor Who stuff and the Disney 100th anniversary, so that's exciting. Twitter, we're more active on Twitter at cinema_savvy. My at's in the description on there, so it's just quicker for me to say than me to spell my own surname. Do you want to follow me? I didn't tweet too much anymore, if I'm being honest. Still call it Twitter, not calling it X. But yeah, it's more the film side of things. So if you're into films, if you're looking forward to what's coming out, maybe it's home releases, maybe it's cinema releases, check us out. If you're intrigued, if you've got a director, maybe we've done a retrospective, maybe we haven't. Maybe we'll announce one that could be that director. So we've got a lot of stuff in the pipeline that we're working on ready for next year, and a couple of TV shows. Actually, I'll say this: what I'm excited for. Don't even watch Doctor Who anymore. I'm very excited. David Tennant returns Doctor Who. That's a nice way to round out the year for me, and it is the anniversary. And you mentioned Disney's Wish. I haven't even seen a trailer, but I'm curious to say the least, because it's the 100th anniversary film. So I'd like to see what they do. But yeah, it's been a pleasure being invited on. So thank you so much, and I love the questions as well. It's been great chatting them. And sorry for my long-winded answers that turned into nonsense.
No worries. I mean, you're the first one where I've actually had to legitimize the desert island one, which I think is quite funny. But yeah, all of George's links, all the Cinema Savvy socials, and all that will be down in the description below. Feel free to check them out. I think what they're doing on that channel is brilliant, and again, the stuff they've done with the festival and the David Fincher retrospective in recent months has been brilliant. Not just saying that because I was on it, but it is genuinely really fascinating and brilliantly well done.
Thank you.
So yeah, it's been great having you on. I've loved this discussion. It has been brilliant. If you like the video and you want to see more, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.